Good afternoon, guys. We just have your attention. We appreciate you guys coming today. This is a nice opportunity for us to come together 6 to 12 for reflection and to pay homage and bring some awareness to what's going on in Europe right now. So before we hand the mic over to our awesome valedictorian who will really run this assembly today, we want to thank a few people. Please put your hands together for Ms. Fires and the Culture Club. Ms. Valley and the Honor Society. Mr. House and the GSA Club. And Mr. Riley, who's got a brand new shirt on today that his wife laid out for him this morning, and we'll thank him and the student council for everything. How about a big round of applause for help out today? We do have a special guest here. It is actually one of the Riley family's family friends. I've been pronouncing this for the last couple minutes, so hopefully I do it right. Mr. Peninsula. We want to thank him. He is from originally from Ukraine. Apparently he is really good at hockey, and he loves eating dinners with the Riley family. How about a big round of applause, please? We're going to respectfully ask for your attention. This is a serious moment today, bringing awareness. I know there's probably a lot of questions out there, and hopefully we'll get all your questions answered today. So, how about a big round of applause for our school valedictorian? Good to see you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us and raising awareness about the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The purpose of today's assembly is to bring light to the different cultural, historical, and social aspects of the situation currently taking place, but mostly, we would like to collect donations to support the refugees escaping from the conflict. All of the proceeds from the drive will go to alleviating the cost of shipping to Poland where the Ukrainian refugees have fled. The members of the Senior National Honor Society gathered with the help of the High School Student Council, Culture Club, and the GSA to create an assembly to bring awareness to the conflict. There's a lot of information floating around online, and I'm sure there have been many discussions about the topic in social studies classes, so we thought it would be a good idea to clarify and relay information in a digestible way. We have chosen a few of our Honor Society members to write and speak about the conflict, and a few members of the GSA to read a poem that encourages unity. Chris Vinsky wrote about the history of the culture in Ukraine, which will be read by Nao Simmons. Dylan Fitzgerald wrote about the history of the conflict, which will be read by Scott Vinsky. Grace Herzog wrote and will speak about the political and military aspects of the conflict. And finally, we have Jonah Posner talking about ways to help those in need in Ukraine and provide safe sources to donate to. We also have a guest speaker from Ukraine, Mr. Pozniakov, who lives locally and with his family, and would like to say a few words. The situation going on in Ukraine is a sensitive topic, so we ask everyone to give their respect and undivided attention as your peers and Mr. Pozniakov present the issue. Now I'm going to pass it over to Mr. House to introduce the poem.
Thank you very much for inviting us. So people in Ukraine are fighting for their homes. The Bridgehampton GSA fights for a safe space for all people. We stand with Ukraine today with the recitation of Peace in the Heart. We will start off with the poem.
If there is peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations.
If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities.
If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors.
If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home.
If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the home.
There must be peace in the heart. So if you would join us with the last line of the poem, there must be peace in the heart, when we read it in Spanish, that would be great.
Debe haber paz en el corazón.
So everyone together, please, the last line. Debe haber paz en el corazón. Thank
Debe
you.
haber paz en el corazón. Over the past microphone today, so that we can talk about the history of the culture of the year.
The people of Ukraine have held onto their unique and special traditions, even throughout time when they were considered a part of the Soviet Union. Food is a very important ingredient in culture, which is often how holidays like Easter and Christmas are celebrated. The national food in Ukraine is a meat soup called borщ. Other popular foods are verkeli, a boiled dumpling, and polopsi, which is a type of cabbage bowl. Another important part of Ukrainian culture is their dance. Most specifically, the hoop. The hoop is a Ukrainian folk dance that was traditionally danced by males, but now is danced by couples. The name of the dance originated from Untitled, which means to hop. During performances, red leather boots are often worn, which significance is important to their culture. These boots show a position of respect and wealth, with the men using the boots as a proposal method. The flower head wreath the woman wears represents the purity of young unmarried women. Such practices are also shared with the Russians, but typically used more in Ukraine. The dances have been around since the 16th century, has even become popular in other countries like Russia, Belarus, and Poland. The Ukrainians are also have a very unique tradition in the way they celebrate Easter. Polansky are eggs that are hollowed out and colored, but not with paint. The eggs are designed and traced in wax, and then they drip into a dye. Kralansky is another egg tradition, Easter tradition, but instead of using raw eggs, they use hard-boiled eggs that will be eaten at the Easter feast. Now I shall pass it on to Scott.
On January 1st, 1991, the Soviet Union was the largest country in the world, covering 8,650,000 square miles of the Earth's land surface. Its population was more than 290 million, and 100 different nationalities lived within its borders. The Soviet Union thought they'd be seen as a world power for years to come, but within the next year, they crumbled. In that same year, Ukraine, previously a part of the Soviet Union, officially declared itself an independent country. Over time, the Kremlin, a branch of Russian government, has been building up Russia's military and weapons to become a world power, doing this all under the rule of Vladimir Putin. One of the first signs that Putin wanted to restore the former Soviet Union was back in 2008 when he ordered the invasion of Georgia. Putin accused Georgia of being aggressive towards Russia and launched a land, air, and sea invasion of Georgia. Another time when Putin wanted to seem dominant was when he ordered the annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in Ukraine. Once Putin saw that he could take this land, he realized over time he could expand his empire and become even more powerful. Unfortunately, Ukraine's sovereignty has thus far stood in the way of that. Now I'll pass it to Grace to talk about the summary of the current political and military situation.
In early 2022, it was reported by multiple news sources that over 100,000 Russian troops were stationed along the Russian-Ukrainian border and could begin an invasion at a moment's notice. This number significantly grew over the next few weeks, instilling fear into the Ukrainian people. Despite the evidence mounting to Russia preparing an invasion on multiple fronts, Russian President Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin denied that an invasion was underway, claiming that the military troops were merely doing exercises near the border. While actively denying the rumors of war, Putin claimed that Russia could not feel safe, develop, or exist while Ukraine entered into organizations like NATO and the EU. Unsurprisingly, not days later, on February 24th, Russia's military launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in an act of war. The Russian military initially invaded northeastern Ukraine, but have since launched invasions in southern Ukraine and are currently in the midst of invading from Russian allied nation Belarus, which borders Ukraine in the north. As I'm sure you've seen on various social media platforms or even on the news at home, this war is already devastating. A recent estimate placed the number of Ukrainian refugees at 2.8 million. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said in a recent interview that over 1,300 Ukrainian soldiers have died. The civilian death toll is over 600. If you have seen any updates on the war on social media, then I'm sure you've seen the photos of the damage. Entire streets leveled, cars run over by tanks, missiles landing in occupied buildings. This unprovoked invasion has sparked discussions on how to provide immediate humanitarian relief and aid to both the Ukrainian refugees and military, as well as how to limit the power of the Russian government before this hostile situation grows into a geopolitical disaster along the lines of World War II. What's happening in Ukraine is affecting more than just Ukrainians. Vladimir Putin has limited what news outlets are available to Russians, only allowing state-run media to be viewed. Any form of protest against the war are illegal, and these brave protesters are getting arrested and sent to prisons across Russia. The idea that the Russian military is carrying out a special operation in Ukraine has been promoted by the government, who will not allow the words war or invasion to be used to describe what is happening. Most Russians aren't even aware of what's going on in their neighboring country. It's important to remember that Russians aren't to blame for what's happening. Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin are the ones responsible for the war and its atrocities. In fact, some Russians who are being forced to participate in the invasion are sabotaging the military convoys to prevent further escalation. I will be now passing the mic to John Posner, discussing
Many people feel helpless in this situation and may act on that fear by ignoring the situation entirely. I'm here to tell you that you are not useless, and there are so many ways to help refugees. This conflict may seem above you, considering how frightening and intimidating it is, but it's better to help than be a bystander. Right now, I'll talk about how to donate to organizations that help Ukraine. But if you cannot contribute financially, you can always post information on social media, after doing research, of course, and you can always encourage friends to donate. As many of you know, there are donation bins by the front door of the school, where you can drop off items that will be sent to Ukrainian refugees, but shipping costs are very high and often unattainable. Although purchasing and sending items such as clothing and toiletries is extremely important, contributing to the crisis with plain money is just as important. There are countless organizations that accept monetary donations that are acceptable to these organizations in a matter of seconds, some of which I'll tell you about right now. Project HOPE is one organization that uses donations to provide refugees with health screenings and medical care. This is very important for the refugees so that they can get immediate help if they're sick or injured, which is a significant problem within this issue that could use a lot more attention right now. If you'd like to make a donation to therapy and psychological support, you can donate to Global Giving, who has a relief fund online. They also use their funds to support families in high-risk areas where the majority of Russian attacks are occurring, such as Kiev and Kharkiv. The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, also known as UNICEF, is very familiar to the previously mentioned organization, except they prioritize the well-being of children in the crisis. They prepare hygiene kits and emergency education supplies. Their goal is to raise $66 million to offer immunization and other forms of medical care. All of these organizations make it very easy for you to donate digitally. Often, all you have to do is enter your credit card information and choose the amount of money to send. Keep in mind that there are bans on international money transfer, and we cannot send money to people directly in Ukraine, as e-money is completely suspended. This policy has been enacted as of February 24th. For example, avoid attempting to send money to Ukraine through apps like PayPal or Venmo, because they're invalid and could potentially be scams. Keep in mind that legitimate organizations may take money through such apps and services, and this is okay, as long as you make sure that you are sending it directly to that IRS-approved organization and not an individual or sketchy organization with a vague description. This is because many of these organizations are not based in Ukraine, and they can receive money since it's not being sent to them internationally directly from the donor. If you are unsure of the legitimacy of an organization, you can donate to any of the sources listed above, and there's a sheet with a list of organizations on the table over there. I'll get into that. There's also organizations that you and your family can donate to. You can simply use the research engine to research any of the listed organizations. Their website should be the first to pop up, and from there you can donate directly. There is a brief description of each organization on the sheet as well, and I encourage you to take one and bring it home to your family and consider donating. If you want to do your own research to find more places to donate to, make sure that you're contributing to a 501c3 organization. A 501c3 organization is a non-profit organization that's exempt from paying federal tax by the IRS. The IRS allows this because they can prove that they're legitimate organizations that are established for the public good. A few red flags also have to do with the amount of money the organization actually gives away. If they say they give away 100% of the money they receive, that usually means that it's illegitimate, as strong organizations tend to keep 10 to 20% of the revenue to keep themselves going. You also want to make sure that they're still donating a significant amount of money to people in need. For example, an organization that only gives away about 40% of their revenue is surely one that you should avoid. The refugees need all of the help that they can get, and each one of you can seriously make an impact. On that table, you can also find the list of organizations along with cookies, cupcakes, and bracelets. The suggested donation for treats is $2, and for bracelets is $1. All proceeds go to the Holy Family Ukrainian Catholic Church of Lyndhurst. The number of Ukrainian refugees is rapidly climbing higher and higher by the day. The United Nations predicts that some 5 million of Ukraine's 44 million citizens will flee, making it imperative that each and every one of us does our part to pitch in. Conditions for these refugees are clearly extremely dangerous, and they are not only without the comfort of their own homes, but many are displaced, and in the midst of war-torn cities, not knowing whether or not they'll even make it out alive. What we want you to take away from today's assembly is that there is no action too minuscule to make a difference. Ukrainian citizens are enduring an unimaginable crisis, and they need our help. I would also like to clarify that we must not fight hate with more hate. We need to be peaceful, respectful, and sensitive. Most Russian citizens do not want war and have no interest in gaining Ukrainian territory or dominating them. These vile acts are those of the Russian government. So please be sensitive about what you say to or about innocent Russian citizens. This last pointer relates to anything you speak about publicly, but please do your research before you spread potential misinformation, either on social media or by word of mouth. I want to thank the National Honor Society for organizing this assembly, Ms. and Mr. Riley for donating bracelets and inviting their friend, Mr. Potsniakov, for speaking. Thank you as well, and I want to thank you all for coming down during this period, listening to what we have to say. I hope you take something valuable from this and take the initiative to help people that really need it. Now I will invite our special guest, Mr. Potsniakov.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really nervous. I'm not a public speaker or anything like that, so I wrote a few things while I was here in the parking lot. So I'm going to read it out. Okay. I'm not a speech person or politician. As a matter of fact, I hate politics. I'm just a regular person that wants to express appreciation on behalf of myself and all Ukrainians for the help, support, and awareness in the whole world towards Ukraine. I'll be honored to tell every Ukrainian I know about all my encounters with people like you that help Ukraine. Any help and awareness is a big deal, especially during this crisis that people are going through. Every Ukrainian's wish right now is peace. I hope it will be over soon and people go back to their normal lives and not going to depend on anybody. I want to give special thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Riley for inviting me here. Thanks to all school staff and students. Stay healthy, safe, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you all for spending your 10th period here. Have a wonderful day and just sit tight and wait for Mr. Miller to dismiss you. Thank you.